What is up, nerds? It's me, your buddy pal, HeyArcher. Welcome back to HeyArcher, the podcast here on Nerd Affiliated. Thank you all for stopping by for episode 141. If you remember, we have a new format for this show. So we're talking nerd news. We're talking what am I watching. I'll give you my overall Kenobi review. I feel like that's the only review that matters this week. And then a look ahead. So sit back, relax. Hopefully on this Monday morning or whenever you're listening to this, you're enjoying a nice cup of coffee. And as Anthony says, let's roll that intro. All right, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to HeyArcher here on Nerd Affiliated. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, leave a good review down below or a bad one. Let me know what I need to improve on. But if you're over on YouTube or here on YouTube, whichever context applies to you, make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell to get notified every time new videos come out. And comment down below. Comment as you're watching, listening, whichever suits you the most. In today's episode, under Nerd News, Top Gun broke a record. Miss Marvel broke a record. And Ezra Miller is breaking the law. We have what I'm watching. And then, as I mentioned, we will talk Kenobi in the review section. So, jumping right into Nerd News, Top Gun. Top Gun has crossed $1 billion. $1 billion globally. Currently, the highest grossing movie of 2022. It's officially passed Doctor Strange. Now, I think up until this point, if you've been following along in the whole movie world, we all kind of thought in a post-pandemic world that unless it was Marvel, it wouldn't be a huge success, right? We didn't even think anything outside of DC could overthrow Marvel or Disney, I'll just say, as far as movies go. Top Gun, Tom Cruise, changing the game once again. But it poses a question. It's something that I debate all the time. If you're a regular listener, regular watcher, you're probably getting annoyed by me repeating the same question all the time. But does this mean that movie theaters are back? Right? Is this the new, is Tom Cruise leading the new wave of the movie watcher? Like older crowds are going back to theaters now. Like, did he open that gate for everybody? Or is he just the exception to the rule? Is it because it was a large box office, summer blockbuster styled movie? Did it do something different, but it's not going to be the norm going forward? That is the question I pose to you. I personally think it's going to be an exception to the rule. It will not be the norm. Jurassic World not doing amazing. Actually, you know what? Let's look that up. I completely forgot about that movie. Let's see. All right. So it's still playing. People ask, is Jurassic World a hit or a flop? It grossed $1.6 billion box office revenue, reaching third highest grossing films of all. Oh, that's world though. Jurassic World Dominion box office. $622 million globally. It's only the 7th Hollywood title to cross 600 million in the pandemic era. All right. I mean, that's not like a huge miss. Elvis is also doing very well, tied first place this week with Top Gun. So yeah, one can argue that, the theaters are back. People are going to see these big movies. But think about it for a second. You have there two franchises that people are very familiar with. So you can say, there's going to be a fan base that's going to go regardless, right? The one took, 30 years to come out with a sequel, or 20 years or whatever it was. So you have two established franchises. And then in Elvis, you just have an iconic figure, right? The whole, what do they call those movies? Like, not a docu-series, but the phrase I can't think of the name at the moment, but a movie just based on somebody's life, somebody that iconic, like, yeah, it's probably going to do well. Now, it has to be a good movie. I'm not saying it's going to do well if it's a terrible movie. It definitely, I think, in this day and age, requires you to actually put out something of good content, good value, so that after people go, they go home, they tell their friends and family, I saw it, it was great, it was worth going to theaters. You need that at this point. That needs to be the extra selling point. So I'm curious, can something break records going forward that is not an established franchise, that is not just a rehash? Do they even make those movies anymore? These days it seems like everything is nostalgia. Everything is a redo. Everything's a remake. So we'll see. We'll see. I still think theaters are on their way out. I feel like this is a small bump, but right now we have Thor coming out. Lightyear came and went. I feel like people aren't even talking about Lightyear anymore, but Thor is in a week, I want to say. Does that break records? I'm not sure. What do you think? Let me know down below. I'm excited to see it. I'm pretty excited to see it. Although I'm curious I wonder how many people are going to see Thor because they generally or genuinely want to see another Thor movie, or they're still curious as to what the next phase is. Because we're already so many TV shows in, so many movies in, and they still haven't established what's the big bad of this phase. And I feel like that should have been established already. Like, where are we going? Now, sticking with Marvel, we have Miss Marvel on Disney Plus, and Miss Marvel is not doing well. Pulled up the article here on Forbes. They're saying that Samba TV reports that 775,000 households watched Miss Marvel in the first 5 days, which compares unfavorably to other live-action MCU shows. WandaVision, 1.6 million. Falcon and Winter Soldier, 1.8 million. Loki, 2.5 million. I did not expect Loki to be number one. Hawkeye, 1.5. And Moon Knight, 1.8. While the report cites higher viewership among Gen Z, Black, Hispanic, and Asian households, it's still quite a ways off from the others. Why? It certainly isn't because the show isn't good. However, that's end quote there. I will say, however, I think partially it's because the show's not good. I will dare to say that. Now, let me make sure I express this part real quick. I enjoyed episode 1. I thoroughly enjoyed episode 1. In fact, I forget what my Instagram post was, but it was like, what a day to be alive. Like, Miss Marvel was out. I think I had just saw Top Gun and then was going home to watch Kenobi or something like that. Like, it was like a trifecta going on. And I was like, it was just like it was a great, I'll even just say, week of being a nerd, being a fan of the nerd lifestyle. And it's, as I was watching Miss Marvel, I was enjoying it. I stopped to go do something else. And then it took me 2 weeks to finish it. I went back and finished it before proceeding to episode 3. I didn't even watch episode 2. I jumped into episode 3 because Aaron Waller was doing his live stream. Now, we had talked offline about our thoughts, and he was telling me about episode 2, and I asked him, I was like, based on your thoughts of episode 2, our combined thoughts of episode 1, can I just watch the live stream with you and watch episode 3? Or am I greatly missing out on something by not watching episode 2? So he said, nah, you could pretty much just skip the 3. So I jumped into 3. Doesn't hold up. Does not hold up. And I'm sure that in many of the articles online, people will reference, it's a new character, so that's why people aren't gravitating towards her. There are religious groups going after this show. Again, that's a topic for another conversation, but there's all these reasons people are saying that maybe that's why Miss Marvel's not doing well. I would pose 2 things. One, it's just not good writing. Like I was watching the show, watching the action, and visually, it's good. Somebody actually said it's almost like they were trying to take into this. Maybe it was the cyber nerds that they were saying the show almost takes Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, like that style of visual, and puts it into live action. Which after the fact, I was like, seems pretty spot on to me. But the other thing is it just doesn't. You took a character that wasn't very popular outside of like her initial couple issues and then put it on TV. So you're already kind of gambling on that. You're already gambling. All right, we're going to take this character, give it another push, give it another shot. I know there's something here. And when you do that, you really need to have like a tight storyline, a really tight script. And out of the gate, they already changed her power set. So any fans you had of the original that were intrigued as to how would you make this in live action, because she essentially has like, think Mr. Fantastic, like her limbs stretch and she can turn shapes, whatever. You essentially took one of the cool things of her power set and made it so she doesn't even have the powers. Like she has the gauntlet or the bracelet, but the powers aren't hers. The powers are the bracelet. So you already changed an important part of the character. Now, I think it's cool that we're getting somebody of a different faith background, different religious background on screen. All for it. All for it. But I remember watching, I think it was episode 3, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. Like that a Pakistani family would do this or say that. And in the Cyber Nerds review, one of them, I forget who it was like losing his shit. He was like, especially in the I don't want to say the wrong word. Is it like the temple or the mosque? I forget what it's officially called, but where the wedding ceremony was. He was like, so many things were wrong for it being a Pakistani celebration, a wedding. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought it odd that even I could pinpoint that, and I'm not super familiar, but I wonder how many people are watching the show of that background that would be into seeing that representation on screen, but are like, oh, that doesn't seem right. That seems off. That's not, and then turn it off because they're like, oh, they're just doing this for views. It's not authentic. I'm curious. I'm really curious about that. But there's so many things I think just going wrong with the show. 3 episodes in, no idea who the real villain is. 3 episodes in, don't understand the point of what's going on. 3 episodes in, spoiler, real quick. Her family knows about this bracelet, and yet she won't tell them that she is currently using it with the powers. Really odd. So the writing's just not the best. And skipping real quick to Kenobi conversation and talking about everything in general at the moment, I feel like Disney's writing is really, really starting to like slack hard. And it might just be there's too much. It might just be there's too many shows, too many movies, too many cartoons, not enough writers, not enough to, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But the drop off in this show, it makes sense to me. It makes sense. I have no desire to continue. I might circle back and watch it once it's done. You know, if somebody is so inclined to tell me that like I should watch it. But aside from that, I have no desire to continue. And of course somebody can argue, well, the show's not free. Fine. Find me somebody who the show's for, and then let me get their review. I'm sure it's a child. I'm sure it's a child, and that's fine. I'm not complaining about that, but it's just weird. I don't think back to any show, and that's sorry, I'm going on an Anthony ramble here. I can't think back to any show that I loved as a kid that like adults couldn't enjoy as well. Like I don't remember that being a reason to explain a show not being good. Like, yeah, like a show like Jackie Chan Adventures, right? Like that's meant to be goofy and whatever. But it's just, that's meant to just be like, you sit down, you turn your brain off and you watch an episode. But if you think back to like a Batman or an X-Men or Justice League, all these shows still for kids, but not dumbed down enough that an adult couldn't sit there with their kid and watch it and be entertained and want to see more. And I think that's what's missing these days. Some of the stuff gets dumbed down so much that the adults may sit down to watch an episode with a kid because it's quality time, but the adults can't get invested into these shows because they're not good. But that's just me. I don't know. That's just me. Last thing I want to address, and I'll be brief. Because we have more to talk about. Ezra Miller, right? Ezra Miller, DC, Amber Heard was her name? I just get her name. Amber Heard. DC is fucked. DC is fucked. DC's been fucked for a long time. We all knew this. But Ezra Miller, it continues. I don't know how. I don't know why. I have my suspicions, but Ezra Miller continues to fly under the radar, and I do not understand it. I don't understand it. And I think, you know, the latest thing that came out, let me just pull that up real quick. Ezra Miller reportedly exposed children, including a baby, to guns, bullets, and weed on their farm. Sources tell Rolling Stone location's not safe, alleging guns are left unattended at the house that's around a 1-year-old baby, blah, blah, blah. Either way, he's got a family in his house in Vermont, separate from the girl he was grooming since she was like 12. And this bothers the hell out of me because in this, as I was reading this article earlier, I'm at the bottom right of the screen, Fantastic Beasts, their advertisements playing. Ezra Miller's in that. Ezra Miller is in the movie that possibly could save the DC EU, Flash. And yet, Warner Brothers is like not saying anything. They're not addressing any of this. And he already was doing shady shit back when Justice League came out. When Justice League came out, before Flash even was probably a script, dude was doing some shady shit. Whoever produces Fantastic Beasts, same thing. Kept the dude in the movie. Even I think he died in the first movie, something like that. But they kept it going. This guy, like, he needs to not be in movies anymore. He needs to not be in TV shows anymore. He needs to not be here anymore. This is a generally bad person, a bad person. And it bothers me that these companies are not putting it out there that like this guy is doing these things. And I think it's because they have so much money invested in these movies that they're like, we can't mess this up. We can't mess this bag up. I personally think I hear more about him and these things in the nerd community than I do outside the nerd community. People have been put on blast on major networks and major stuff for less that aren't even as big a star. But this person is just flies under the radar. Flies under the radar. And I don't understand it. It bothers me. I'm tempted to almost not even talk about the Flash movie. Like I almost don't even want to bring it up anymore. I almost don't want to see it because I feel like Warner Brothers took a gamble. They knew things. My suspicion. They knew things were off with this person. Proceeded anyway, and now they're screwed. You know, and who knows? It could have been a great movie. It might be an awesome movie. They got Michael Keaton to come back as Batman, and you gambled it on this person who in videos was like assaulting women and stuff, like getting drunk and attacking. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore when it comes to this story. But what I do know is that the people who should be saying something and potentially doing something are doing nothing. And they're also screwed because of Amber Heard and Aquaman. Again, put her in the movie. You knew things were... Anytime there's like some issue going on with somebody, I really do think in this day and age, you should do your own internal investigation as a company like Warner Brothers. Do your own internal investigation and say to yourself, is it worth the gamble that this person will be found, we'll just say innocent and whatever it is. Like, something's off with Amber. There's this thing with Johnny Depp. There are these allegations going on. There's, he's potentially losing his job with Pirates. That's a big deal for Disney to say we're not going to use him in Pirates anymore. Like, that's major. Like, we should probably look at this real close and see, is it worth the gamble? And now you got to re-edit the whole movie with her in it. Like, Warner Brothers needs to just start over. They need to just start over. And what was it? AT&T that bought Warner Brothers? No, AT&T closed the deal with Warner Brothers. That's what it was. Discovery merged with AT&T's Warner Media Unit and Discovery Inc. said Friday the two firms have completed a merger. Warner Brothers Discovery. So that's its own thing. And there was some article that came out at one point that was like, whoever now is running everything was like, Warner Brothers, you need to get DC back on track. You need to reset whatever, do whatever. It needs to get back on. We need to start over, but it needs to get back on track. And they've dumped so much money into two movies that are just now nail in the coffin. I wish the best for Ezra Miller. I wish the best for anybody who has mental issues and these problems, but I can't I don't understand it. I don't want to mess with them. So yeah. As I drink out of my Batman mug. It sucks. It just sucks. Whole thing sucks. Whole thing's sad. It's sad and it sucks. But moving on to the next segment. What am I watching? We'll fly through this one real quick so we can talk Kenobi. Strange New Worlds continues to be a banger. I feel like nobody's talking about it. I feel like nobody's talking about Strange New Worlds. And let me know in the comment section if you want me to review the show, talk about the show, whatever it may be. And I understand part of the issue is that it's on Paramount Plus. People these days don't want to buy a whole streaming platform just for like a single show. But Strange New Worlds is good. Strange New Worlds is good. And the other show that's on Paramount Plus that I think is worth a watch, doesn't get talked about a lot, is Evil. Evil, starring dude from Luke Cage, Mike Coulter. It's a great show. It's very much like the X-Files type of thing. You know, you have, I don't want to say too much because I feel like part of the allure of the show is going into it not knowing anything. But you have one person who believes in everything that's happening. And then you have the other person who is like, no, there's a reason for this all happening. But it's on its third season now. Paramount Plus. Give it a watch. Give it a watch. And if Luke Cage never comes back because Mike is doing this show, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. It's a good show. It's a really good show. Last show that we continue to watch, 90 Day Fiancé. I'm curious, any of you nerds out here, 90 Day Fiancé fans, because I'm thinking about starting a podcast on 90 Day Fiancé with me and the lady. Let me know in the comments. And we would talk about all the other shows too. Diaries, Love After Lockup, loving that show, loving the Caribbean. So let me know down below if that's something that you watch, you're interested in seeing. I think we're going to make it happen. Now, let's dedicate the end of the show. You know what? I'm going to skip. To look forward. HeyArcher Live this week will be probably on a different day and time. I don't think it's going to be on Thursday at 8:15 p.m. So make sure you follow me on Instagram, HeyArcher, for updates on that. Because I have to do something for work, so I can't do it at our regular day and time. And because of that, there's no guest this week. I don't think. There's no guest this week. So stay tuned for updates. Or maybe there will be a guest because I'll change the day and time and it works for somebody. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Now let's go back. Review. Kenobi. Spoilers. At this point, the internet has given no shits when it came to having a block on spoilers. I think the internet waited 24 hours and then said, F it, go for it. Tell it all. I've done I've had a couple of discussions about the show. There's a short, I'll just say here, but over on the Nerd Affiliated YouTube channel if you're listening, but if you're here on the YouTube channel, there's not a short, a clip from HeyArcher Live last week where Anthony and I talk about the show. If you head over to HeyArcher 1, just like the number 1, on TikTok, I've done videos on Kenobi. I'm loving TikTok, by the way. I'm like going all in on being a TikTok creator. I've done videos on Kenobi, and I feel like I haven't done a full, proper discussion, right? A solo discussion. Now, let me know down below your thoughts on the show, of course. We've talked about the show episode by episode before on other shows, Rambling with Anthony, with Sal. But heading into episode 6, I was definitely concerned with how they were going to wrap everything up. The concerns, I think, were valid. Now, the show as a whole, I still enjoy. I think the show suffered from oversaturation. There are so many Disney shows we talked about before. There's so many movies. There's so much Star Wars content. Dave Filoni is involved in like 3-4 different projects at one time. There's so much happening at one time that this show, I believe, did not get the attention and time that it needed to. I don't. I think the writers were given the shortest amount of time to put this together. I feel like Deborah Cho did the best she could do with what she was given. But I think the show was rushed. And I feel like it would have been a game changer. A game changer if maybe they gave it another year. Now, I don't know how many years it was in production, on and off, whatever. But the final product does not appear like a show that they've been working on for years. I'll say more than 2. Cosmonaut Variety Hour just did his quickie on Kenobi, and he said the same thing I heard numerous people say. Mandalorian Season 1 looks like a higher production, or it looks like it has a higher production value than Kenobi, and that should not be the case. It should not be the case. These are the 2 characters we wanted to see brought back on screen the most. Kenobi, Skywalker. The most. And it does not feel like they took it that seriously. With that being said, episodes 1 through 5, despite at times what may appear as low production value, despite plot holes, despite silliness, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it for what it was trying to do. I think I would have enjoyed it even more if The Last Jedi didn't come out and The Rise of Skywalker didn't come out, because they took ideas from those movies and rehashed them again into the show. I think I would have enjoyed the show even more if The Mandalorian didn't come out, because we had another escort mission for a show. Mandalorian and Bad Batch, actually. So I think if this show didn't copy so many ideas from the other things, again, it would have held more value. It would have been even better. It would have been amazing. But I want to narrow down on episode 6, with the one I have the most issue with. I think part 6, I keep saying episode. I think part 6 ruins a lot of the magic in the original trilogy. And it does so, I don't even know if it's intentional, but Disney has this problem. I've talked about it, TikTok, other videos. But Disney has this problem where they feel like they have to explain everything and show that everything has a purpose or comes from or is, how do I say this? Disney feels like everything needs to be explained except for the things that need to be explained. So do I need to see how Han Solo got the last name Solo? No, not at all. Could care less. Would I like to see a Moon Knight flashback to when he was turning into Steven and beating up those guys on the van or in the van? Yeah, I would love to see that. Don't keep that off screen. Like, show that to me. But showing Vader tell Obi-Wan, you didn't kill Anakin, I did, was unnecessary. It was unnecessary. And what I was bringing up in the past in the other videos was Obi-Wan is a very part of what works for Obi-Wan that doesn't work for Luke, I think, is that Obi-Wan was in the Jedi Order since day one of his life. Like in the show, they even mention pulled from a child, brought in there. He full-heartedly believes in the Force moving you through life. The Force controlling everything. the Force being the reason for everything. He's all in on this. So him giving up in between Revenge of the Sith and the show, to me, makes sense because everything was taken from him. And he also believes in, he almost doesn't want to force things. He wants things to just happen. So in between New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, there's a change in the story. In New Hope, Obi-Wan tells Luke, Vader betrayed and murdered your father. Empire Strikes Back, Luke finds out Vader's his father. They changed that. They changed it in that movie. Return of the Jedi, Luke goes to Obi-Wan, why didn't you tell me? Why did you tell me that Vader betrayed my father when it turns out Vader is my father? They course corrected it. And they were like, well, it's all about a point of view. It's all about the perception. That's a very Jedi thing to say. That's a very Obi-Wan thing to say. For Obi-Wan not to just give you beginning and end, but for you to kind of piece it together, but for him to also explain things in the way of like the Force, in the way of like letting things happen, that there's a meaning behind everything, that there's a meaning to things, that it's more than just the optic. And he says it, from a certain point of view, yes, Vader was this whole persona that came out of nowhere that killed off Anakin. That's how I perceived it. My brother died because Vader killed him internally. When he says that line in Kenobi episode 6, yes, I understand that Vader in that moment frees Obi-Wan from his shame, from his guilt of knowing that he failed Anakin. But you didn't need that to happen. You didn't need it to be a line that Vader tells Obi-Wan and he goes, that's a good line, and writes it down and repeats it in the future to Luke Skywalker. You didn't need that at all. Let it be that was perception. Let it be that was how Obi-Wan perceived everything. Just keep it going. Keep that whole allure, the romance of the Force and Obi-Wan and his viewpoints. Let that continue. But I feel like that line just ruins it. It just ruins it. Also, kind of going back, him being so deep into the Jedi training and the learnings and the life, him giving up makes sense. And people were like, well, Disney wants to show a white man be demeaned and all that stuff. Shut up. No, he literally had everything he believed in, like, proven wrong. Like his beliefs literally led to millions of deaths. And he rekindles that at the end of Kenobi, which I like. But Luke Skywalker, in Last Jedi, they were attempting that, but it doesn't work like that because we didn't see Luke go through the same stuff that Kenobi did. We didn't see Luke train since a child to believe in this thing, and then this very thing betrays him. Like, Luke gave up on everything the second he tried to kill Kylo or killed Ben, which then led to the fall of the Jedi. Like, it's not the right order. If anything, Kylo becomes another Vader, and then Luke's like, I failed, blah, blah, blah. No, he attempts to kill him first, and then that leads to the destruction of the Jedi, and then Luke's like, well, everything I did was for nothing. Like, and even that doesn't make sense. So believe it or not, I like that they retried that in this show. But the other things that they were grabbing from, the escort mission stuff, kind Kenobi picking up all the rocks like Rey, all the other things that they kept grabbing from other things to retry it. I didn't care for it. I didn't care for it in episode 6. Reva, I mean, they retried. She was another one. They retried the whole redemption of an evil person, but let them live thing. There's rumors that there was a rewrite here, and she was supposed to die. There are rumors that in an original part of The Rise of Skywalker, Kylo was to live and Rey was to die. So that's not what happened there. So they're like, all right, well, let's make that same thing happen here. Now, Reva, up to episode 6, I had no issues with. People were bitching and complaining and all this stuff. I love the character. She made you hate the character. That was the whole point. You're not supposed to like this person. And there's only one Vader, so expecting her, people are like, oh, she's not as intimidating. She's not blah, blah, blah. Yeah, there's only one Vader, right? Let's reserve that. Vader, and this is where we get nitpicky. The Inquisitors, most of the time, are fallen Jedi or people that Vader took and were Force users, trained them into dark side, to become dark side users, but they're not Sith. Rule of 2 with Sith, they can only be 2. So he doesn't train them the full way. He keeps them very limited because they're fighting Jedi that aren't really that trained anyway. So he can always stay a tier above everybody else. But he puts you through it. He puts you through it to become an Inquisitor. And to show that Reva all along was baiting Kenobi to bait Vader, I thought was a stretch. I thought it was a stretch. And I let it slide. And then she turns on Vader and she loses. Yeah. Revenge doesn't lead to anything good. He kills her. Again, proving revenge doesn't lead to anything good. Lesson learned. Nope. They gotta let her live. She's gotta breathe. Survives getting stabbed. Finds the message about the children and and Owen on Tatooine, and somehow pieces together that Owen has the child of Vader. I don't know how. I don't know how you piece that together. I've rewatched that scene probably 15 times because somebody on TikTok said I think the line the guy said was, they blatantly tell you that the kid is important to Vader. No. That doesn't mean anything. Her seeing the message that Owen has a child on Tatooine could literally mean anything, because Vader has taken children and created Inquisitors. So to go there and kill this kid, why are you killing him? Do you know why you're going to hunt this kid? No. No clue. No idea. I'm just going to go do it. Just going to go murder him. Just going to do it. She gets a ship somehow. Gets to Tatooine. All before the Vader and Kenobi fight could even happen. And they're following each other. She somehow skips over to Tatooine real quick to do her whole thing before Kenobi gets there. Threw me off. Threw me out. I was in, and it kept, every time she appeared on screen, every time they showed that conflict, it pulled me out. Pulled me out completely. The redemption. She's like, I can't kill this kid. This kid is, let's go based on what he even says. This kid is important to the man who destroyed your life, who you've been hunting for 10 years. And that's the moment you're like, I can't do it. It made no sense to me. Made no sense to me. But she's here. We're stuck with her. What do we do with Reva going forward? I don't know. I found it more interesting, or I would have found it more interesting, kill Riva, and then you do the Cassian Andor thing, and if you want to give her another show, it's a prequel showing her hunt Jedi. I think that would have been badass. Riva Jedi Hunter. It's a cool ass show. And show the conflict. Show her having conflict. Maybe she lets some people go and doesn't tell them. You know, maybe she does kill some Jedi who refuse to surrender. So, I don't know. But I feel like that's a more interesting story because it's something different. And then that show can lead to the conflict she has in herself in Kenobi. But now she's just going to be a good guy. Like, she's been stabbed 2 different times, 2 different parts of her body with a lightsaber. Not like slashed, like still lives. I don't get it. But you know what? I still like the show. I still want more Star Wars. I still want more shows. But you guys got to space it out. Space it out. Let it breathe. Mandalorian Season 3, I saw a trailer leak online. Looks great. That Season 3 looks like they spent more money on that than they did Kenobi. Again, doesn't make sense to me. That's where we are at the moment. But yeah. Let me know what you think down below. I know most of you like the show. Most people liked Kenobi. I feel like there was a very loud minority that hated the show, but I don't think that was most. I think most people like the show in some way, shape, or form. But I also think most people could care less if there's a Season 2. Maybe that's a hot take. I'm not sure. But that's it. That wraps up episode 141 of the HeyArcher podcast here on Nerd Affiliated. Let me know your thoughts on everything. I feel like this was a very negative episode minus Top Gun. But let me know your thoughts on everything. Am I crazy? Am I overthinking it? I want to hear from all of you. As I mentioned, HeyArcher Live this week will be at a different day and time, but traditionally, HeyArcher Live every Thursday, 8:15 p.m. over at Nerd Affiliated. Here at Nerd Affiliated, we're bringing you podcasts, reviews, trailer reactions, discussions between myself, Sal, and Anthony. But if you're a fan of toys and photography, head over to HeyArcher on YouTube. HeyArcher 1, actually, the number 1. That's my toy hunting vlog series. So make sure you give that a subscribe as well. Like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, good reviews, 5 stars, all that fun stuff. And I'll talk to all you nerds in the next episode. Peace.